book, Captured by Love. In fact, they were on the Memorial Day concert in Washington, D.C. Smitty and Louise, he's 94. He was going to be there, but he had a little bit of health problem hurt his back, and so they had a video of them, but they had an actor and actress playing their role, and then I was on ABC News showing them the tap code and how Smitty had brought that in, enabled us to communicate covertly, and they never were able to break us from that. And that communications brought collaboration, it brought enhancement of our culture, but it really helped us to be surviving that whole ordeal.
Yeah, that kind of stamina, that ability to press through. Lee, was there maybe a scripture or some thought that maybe God put in your heart that really helped you through your time of captivity?
Well, there were several. It's been so long now, it's hard for me to remember which ones were more important. But one of them that I went over a lot was, the first Psalm. I went over it a lot, and of course the 23rd Psalm a lot. And beyond that, right now I've kind of moved on, but one of my cellmates grew up Catholic. His parents got upset with the school where his brother was, and so they pulled him out of the Catholic Church in school, and he hadn't been to church but 2 or 3 times in his whole life. And he would look over at me and say, "Lee, do you know any Bible verses?" And of course, I'd memorized some growing up, and I'd share 1 or 2, and then the next day he'd say, "Do you know any more?" And finally I said, "Ken, I've run out." But then our neighbors next door had some, and so we got more Bible verses tapped through the walls, and later they would roll up a blanket and talk very loudly, and we would get them through the walls that way. So it was, the Bible verses were very important. People were memorizing them all the time.
Lee, were there moments where you saw people raw and to the edge and you had to help each other along? When I think of trauma, I think the antidote to trauma really is relationship, that ability to press into our relationship with God, and we need each other, friends for the fire.
Totally agree. That's the most important things. So the first time I was tortured, they wanted me to fill out, and they were bringing everybody that had come in recently to do a 3-page biography, okay? Questions. I figured it was probably they were doing it for Russia so they could build knowledge about American pilots. But anyway, it's a 3-page biography of all of our background, our family, our income, our jobs, all the training we'd had, all this kind of stuff. Well, our commitment was to the 6 articles of code of conduct, which we'd all memorized in training, that we're going to be loyal to our country. We won't share anything with them. We'll only give name, rank, service number, and date of birth, of that kind of stuff. So I resisted and refused to do it, and eventually they started torturing me. And eventually, after a long time, I gave in. And I told them I would fill it out. Well, I did fill it out. And the only thing I put on there that was true was my father's first and last name, hoping that someday I'd get to write a letter home. And I did. At 2 year point, a year and a half later, I did get to write a letter, 6-line letter, and I got one at 2.5 years, a 6-line letter. But when they tortured me, and I agreed to fill it out, and I did, and they put me back in the leg irons and handcuffs and blindfolded me. I'm still laying in this filthy torture room, and I laid there and cried like a baby. I was so ashamed that I was not tough enough to resist that and deny them what they wanted. Well, I get back to my cell, and one of my guys had already come back. He didn't last as long as I did, but my cell leader lasted longer. And he was a New York State wrestling champion in high school and wrestled at the University of Pennsylvania. And he was one of the toughest guys in all the prison cells. And just a great person, a great character. And he lasted longer than I did, of course. But he said, "Man, we did our best." And then we got contact a few months later with other people. And they said, "Man, everybody's been through that. You did your best. Some of us are tougher than others. But as long as you do your best to resist them and then get ready to bounce back, we're proud of you. Stay connected. We're going to go home proud. We ain't leaving without you."
Well, together. That's the motto in the military. I've got your back. I'm your buddy. And it's trained and it's ingrained in you from day one, isn't it, Lee? Lee, that's true in life. We need each other so much. Lee, what was it like for your family? I'm thinking about, did they know you were alive? Were they just praying you were alive? I mean, 1,955 days is a long time.
5 years, 4 months, and 2 weeks. Well, the fact that I pulled out that emergency radio and made that radio call, they told my parents that he made a radio call after he got on the ground, so we know he was alive on the ground. Now, a lot of people, they didn't know that. So they knew that I was alive on the ground, so they had hope that I was still going to be alive. And then I wrote my first letter at 2 years, and they got it 2.5. But they had assumed during that time that I was probably going to be alive, and I was. So that was helpful to them, but, you know, it wasn't 100%. And then in the 69 time frame, the League of Wives and Families got going, and my parents got in that. My mother was a school teacher and a pretty good speaker. So she spoke at Rotary Club, churches, and these wives and families, they got millions of letters written to the Paris Communist delegation at the Paris Peace Talk. And a lot of the wives and families took them over there and confronted them with these letters from Americans demanding that we be treated with lenient, humane treatment, which they had signed the Geneva Accords that required that. So that was a big part. That kept them busy and hopeful. And then finally they got a letter from me. And I think that really lifted them up too.
Lee, in 1973, again, the 50th anniversary this year, Operation Homecoming, and you're going home. I can't even imagine what the feelings were like.
Well, by that time, we were always kind of thinking, well, someday we're going to go home. We believed that. And for me, initially, it was going to be 6 months from now. And then the July of 68, I said it'll be a year. And then in 69, I said I can make it 2 more years, but it was really 3.5. So, you know, you just learn to do that. But when we got ready to go home, we knew they were required by the Paris Agreement. The protocol said they would notify us within 48 hours and give us a copy of the protocol to the agreement, saying that we'd be released in over a 60-day period, first in, first out, except sick and wounded first. So we were going home in groups. I was in the third group that came home. There were almost all people from the summer and fall of 67 and early 68 in the third group. So the first group came out on February the 12th. The agreement was signed on January the 21st. So that was kind of what was happening. But by that time, our emotions were so controlled and so flat, and we didn't want to give the enemy propaganda. So when they read that to us out in the courtyard of the prison, we did not act excited or anything. We just looked at each other and turned and walked away, because we knew they'd take pictures of us celebrating, and they would say, well, they were always against it, and now it's over. See how happy they are. We weren't going to give them that. So we just walked away. But we went back and talked about it and decided, yes, we'll wait and see. We'll believe it when it happens. And it wasn't until we got on that C-141 in Jialam Airport in Hanoi, and it broke ground, we started cheering, and we could feel the wheels come off. The cheering started, and then when we got over international water, the aircraft commander came on the intercom and said, we're now feet wet over international waters. And then it really started cheering, you know.
Lee, we're fighting time so much, but I'm just enthralled with you and this story. You have so much to share about reintegration. You are going to continue to share tomorrow more about your story and what it was like for you to come back stateside. But in the midst of it, you put together with a good friend of yours a book called Captured by Love, inspiring true romance stories from Vietnam POWs. And Lee, what I love about it is these are stories about people who went to war in relationship, those who came back after the war who developed relationships. And it's about hardship, it's about resilience. But you wrote this book for what reason? I want people to understand where we're going to go tomorrow, because this is a gift to all of us.
You know, I knew the guys. I'd lived with a lot of them in a POW camp. And so at reunions, I kept hearing these romance stories. I'd known some of the guys were married before, and some of them, but I met their wives, and their wives were so fun and telling stories. And I decided, you know, Hollywood couldn't write a script this wild and crazy. This is real, and somebody needs to write a book about it. And then a couple of years later, I realized that we were getting old and nobody was writing a book about it. So I reached out to a friend of mine and asked him, do you know anybody who could help me with this? And he said, well, I've got a friend, Greg Goodek, who's a romance writer, and he can probably help you. So I contacted Greg. We have 20 stories in there. Some were married and stayed married 7 to 8 years. Some were married and came home, and their marriage had been a little shakier for some reason. Their wives were POW wife for 6, 7 years. Some of them were MIA. They didn't even know if they were coming home, and they had divorced them. I wanted to divorce and move on. But within 6 months, they met somebody, and they've been married 49 years now. And some of us were single, And we met somebody after we came home, most of the guys within a few weeks, and they had proposed within 2 or 3 months and were married within 6 months, and they've been married 49 years now. And I was probably about the last bachelor because I dated all these girls, but I never met the one until I met Mary, and I knew pretty quickly, and she knew pretty quickly that this was the one. We've been married 48 and a half years.
Well, we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more tomorrow here on the broadcast. Also, Lee, how God kept you in the service. You continued on, became a real leader, retired as a full bird colonel, and had your own squadron. And you've got a few words to say about where we're at in terms of national defense and training our warriors to defend America in her wars as we go forward. Lee, what a delight to have you today. Seriously, I can't wait to continue the discussion tomorrow on the 50th anniversary of the end of U.S. engagement in Vietnam and the return of our POWs. By the way, we'd be remiss, Lee, if we didn't say there are still 1,582 Americans still unaccounted for, according to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency. And we really want to bring honor and respect to them and their families. Lee, what a delight to have you. On behalf of Dr. Dobson's wife, Shirley, we salute you and can't wait to join together again tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
As you heard in first-hand testimony, the POWs of the Vietnam War endured incomprehensible emotional trauma and physical abuse. Please join us again tomorrow to hear more about how the United States Air Force retired Colonel Lee Ellis returned home to American soil safely and grappled with a new challenge as he readjusted to life after the war and even found love. You will not want to miss this broadcast. And by the way, the next time you see a veteran on the street or at the store, I often see them wearing those retired service caps signifying their branch and division. Make sure you thank them for their service. They will appreciate it. Okay, before we go, it has come to our attention that unscrupulous individuals have been using Dr. Dobson's image and likeness to falsely endorse online products. We want to make it clear here at Family Talk that Dr. James Dobson and the organization he leads have nothing to do with these scams. We do not, nor have we ever endorsed any outside products or services, let alone any product or service that is not in line with biblical principles and values. From the very beginning, Dr. James Dobson's ministry has been guided by Proverbs 22:1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver or gold. We cherish the trust and confidence you have given us through the years, and we always seek to uphold it. I'm Roger Marsh, and on behalf of Dr. Dobson and everyone here at the JDFI, thank you for making us a part of your day. May God richly bless you and your family. And be sure to join us again next time right here for another edition of Dr. James Dobson's Family Talk.
This has been a presentation of the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute.
If you decide to order a resource mentioned on Dr. James Dobson's Family Talk, it's important to let them know that you listen to their broadcast on AFR.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas.
The human race, made up of different people who have different personalities, but all have one thing in common. We all came from the womb. No one just magically appeared. Life begins at conception, and every life is precious to God. We believe it's our duty and a privilege to stand and fight for the sanctity of life, and we hope you'll continue to stand with us. For all you do to defend the unborn, thank you from AFA.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, almost complete. Ohio residents voted to reject a measure that would have made it harder to change the state's constitution, Gary Baumgarten reports.
Although the issue would have raised the threshold for approving state constitutional amendments, it was seen actually as a precursor referendum on abortion, because had it passed, an abortion rights amendment on the November ballot would likely have been blocked.
Former President Donald Trump speaks to a crowd of supporters in Windham, New Hampshire. The 2024 Republican presidential candidate taking aim at President Joe Biden. This coming after the former president's recent court appearance in connection to his alleged role in the January 6th Capitol protest.
Crooked Joe Biden has weaponized law enforcement. He has weaponized. He's done something that nobody thought. They talked about it, but nobody ever did it, never to this extent, and ordered his top political opponent, me, arrested.
CNN political commentator Ashley Allison suggested recently that Vice President Kamala Harris's historically low approval rating is largely driven by the fact that she is a black woman and a, quote, history maker. But Matt Mowers, who served as the senior White House advisor at the U.S. State Department, says it has nothing to do with race or gender. It has to do with the fact that she is incompetent and in over her head.
She's being judged on a single metric that every politician, regardless of gender or race, is judged on, which is competence. Let's not forget the one single public job she was given by President Biden was to serve as the border czar. Yet we have now had over 7 billion illegal crossings across the southern border. Kamala Harris is being held to the same level of judgment, which is incompetence that Joe Biden is being held at as well.
An Arizona sheriff says armed Mexican drug cartel members have been seen crossing the southern border, and they will continue because the Biden administration has no intention of stopping illegal aliens, which Democrats view as potential Democrat voters. Cochise County Sheriff Mark Daniels says the cartel members are not facing opposition.
Well, unfortunately, it's getting worse and worse because you got to ask yourself, who has more of an operational plan, who has the will, and who is winning, and that is your criminal cartels. As long as they can continue to come across that border just unchecked, like you're seeing with the weapons, and we're seeing a huge increase of weapons after my 39 years with the smuggler drivers that are coming here, the criminals from all over the country that are coming here to get involved in international crime and smuggling. It's vulnerable to not just law enforcement, but the public that endures it every day too.
Reinstated football coach Joe Kennedy plans to pray again after football games when he returns to the field this September. And as Chris Woodward reports, you can join Kennedy in that effort.
The law firm known as First Liberty has a campaign encouraging everybody in the country on September 1st to take a knee with Coach Kennedy. In fact, that's the name of the campaign. Take a knee with Coach Joe Kennedy. Attorney Jeremy Dysa, First Liberty.
Coach Kennedy fought for our freedom in the military. He fought for our freedom in the courts. Now it's up to you and I, the benefactors of that freedom, to take up on the very thing that he won for us and exercise that freedom that has been so hard fought for and won.
For people not familiar with the story, Kennedy was fired by Bremerton High School in Washington State for having private on-the-field prayers after games. The case took years, but the Supreme Court ruled last year that Kennedy should not have been fired.
We're just asking folks, whether they're football players or coaches or fans, to wherever they are in the country on the evening of September 1st, at their football game or on the sidelines, take a meeting with Coach Kennedy, send us a picture of it all. Maybe we'll include it on our social media recap of the entire event. It's one thing for us to have that religious liberty and have people go to court to defend it. It's a whole other thing when all Americans stand up and say, I recognize the freedom that I have and I'm going to exercise it.
I'm Chris Woodward.
A brush fire is burning in Cedar Park, Texas, where one building was destroyed. Cedar Park Fire Chief James Mallinger.
This one apartment building is a total loss. 2 more apartment buildings have been damaged. Fire crews successfully protected the nearby residences, businesses, and the nearby Talman Home Development Whitestone Landing. We've contained adjacent brush fires, and we continue to monitor at this point.
More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty Keith.
Too busy to catch your favorite shows on the radio? Have no fear, because the AFR app is here. Download the app to have access to live broadcast, music streaming, as well as each podcast. Whether you're at work, at home, or on the go, it's easy to listen to AFR.
The AFR app is available not only for Apple and Android users, but also on Amazon Alexa and Roku.
Download the AFR app today at afr.net. Jenna Ellis in the morning on American Family Radio.
Jenna, first, good morning. Great to be with you, the queen of talk radio in America.
The left does not want to honor our freedoms, and we have a responsibility to fight back.
I love talking about the things of God because of truth and the biblical worldview.
People that go with a vision that runs so deep that it dilutes the woke agenda. Well, thank you, Jenna. Right from the beginning, I knew you, so
shaken things up yet again for his campaign. So he has changed campaign managers in what the media is calling a massive shakeup. But, you know, these things happen. And campaign manager Janera Peck has been moved to the position of chief strategist. James Uthmeyer, who served as Governor DeSantis' chief of staff in his gubernatorial office, will now lead the governor's presidential bid. Sources confirmed to me and also a bunch of news outlets. And the quote from communications director Andrew Romo said, James Uthmeyer has been one of Governor DeSantis' top advisors for years, and he is needed where it matters most, working hand in hand with Janera Peck and the rest of the team to put the governor in the best possible position to win this primary and defeat Joe Biden. So here to talk about this and more is Ryan Tyson, who is a senior advisor to the DeSantis campaign and a pollster. So Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, Jenna. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining me. So, you know, the media is shaping this as, you know, this is yet another shakeup for the DeSantis campaign, and it's because of, you know, the dwindling polls, and they're making this sound like it's a massive earthquake. You know, I'm old enough to remember when President Trump had a number of campaign strategists and shakeups. I don't think that this is particularly novel, but what can you tell us about where the campaign for the governor is headed?
Well, first of all, I completely agree with you. I don't call this a shakeup. I call this a buildup. You know, voters are not paying attention to the process stories that the media likes to shove in their face every single day. The reality is, Jenna, it's summertime. Voters in Iowa and New Hampshire, their summer isn't even close to being over yet. Their kids aren't even about to go to school. Kids in the South are about to start going back to school here soon. But this election hasn't even really started in earnest yet. And I think what the governor has done is he has recognized that the campaign needs to focus primarily in these first early states. We've leaned up. We're building up in those states. And I have to tell you, all the leading indicators in our